Samate Bhakti Namaste Shar Shati Deve Gaudavani Parcharane Nirvishesha Shannavari Pashtatta Desha Tarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Se Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaur Bhaktabinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Okay, now we're looking at today chapter 2, text number 49. So what are some of the things that you remember from the verses 1 to 48 of chapter 2? What are some of the things that you were discussing in the previous classes that you remember?
Yes, Prabhuji. So, Lord Krishna was telling Arjuna that he should not abandon the field, and he should fight because Krishna desired it, and that everything should be performed for Krishna's sake in transcendental consciousness.
That's good. Yeah, that's just at the end. That's just at the end there. That's right at the end there. Just text, just where we're looking at now, around that text 48 in the purport. Prabhupada says that. So what about some things that came before that?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Well, basically, like about the soul, some of the things that Lord Krishna describes are the qualities of the soul: being eternal, never being killed, never being burned, never dried. Basically, the nature and characteristics of the spirit soul, as opposed to
that.
the
Krishna
body.
Prabhu, that's good. Yeah, we got that. What are some of the other things in the second chapter?
Hare Krishna. Krishna emphasizes Arjuna's duty as a warrior to uphold righteousness. He introduces the concept of Buddhi Yoga, working without attachment to the fruits of actions. By doing so, one can break free from sorrows and attain a state beyond suffering.
Yeah, good. Now, what about this Buddhi Yoga? Someone like to explain to us a little bit about what's your understanding of Buddhi Yoga? Anyone like to share with us their understanding of Buddhi Yoga? Raise hands if you'd like to do that.
Prabhuji, that one must be resolute in Krishna consciousness and have full faith.
Okay, I mean that's Krishna consciousness in general, but specifically Buddhi Yoga. What is what does that indicate? What's the specific implication of that term Buddhi Yoga as distinct from Bhakti Yoga? What does Buddhi Yoga actually mean?
Prabhu, maybe I could venture to say that, well, the concept Buddhi Yoga, Buddhi means intelligence, right? So Buddhi Yoga means to engage one's intelligence in the service of Krishna, controlling the mind, controlling the senses through spiritual intelligence, and engaging the senses in the service of the Lord.
Good. Buddhi Yoga, yeah. If it's going to be really good intelligence, then it'll be engaged in bhakti, won't it? So yeah, that's good. Some other things from the second chapter.
Well, also the three modes of material nature are introduced. It's just a little introduction, just a little touch.
So a little introduction to the three modes of material nature, yeah. Let's go back to our presentation. And here's a bit of an overview of the second chapter. So let's present this, and we'll explain things in relation to just what you've been mentioning now in terms of what you remembered from the previous sections. Now, of course, in the beginning, then it's the summary of the first chapter. Okay, like, so he's saying now what to do, and he's bewildered. Kalpanya dosho. Pahatasava Prichami Tum Dharma Shamunta Chetaha. Dharma Shamunta Chetaha. I'm confused in my heart about what is my duty. Shishashteham Sharimam Tam Prabha. Yat Shreyatam Nishtitam Bruhitan me. You tell me, Bruhitan me Yashreya. What's the best thing for me? Bruhitan me. You tell me. Shishashteham. I'm your disciple. Shadi Tom Prabhanam. Surrendered unto you. Text number 7. So it's like the conclusion of everything that was going on in the first chapter, and he surrenders. Arjuna surrenders to Krishna. I mean, this is so significant. Prabhupada, he often makes a point about this in regard that before you can enter into understanding Bhagavad Gita, you have to actually accept the discipline of and surrender to Guru. So this is the example of Arjuna. And, in the purport, it's quite powerful. Prabhupada's explaining that even though he's a king and he's got so much facility and he's had so much training and he's so qualified, but still without a guru, none of those things are of any use. So therefore he surrenders to Krishna. And it's very significant that it happens in the beginning before actually. And then, okay, so then as Atabi Krishna Prabhu shared with us that here Krishna, the first thing, Arjuna has these arguments, right? The arguments. What are the arguments? What are Arjuna's arguments? Just so someone can remind us. What are Arjuna's reasons for not fighting? What are his reasons for withdrawing from the battle?
The fact that all the men warriors are going to be killed, and then women will be unprotected, and therefore, as a result, there will be Varna Sankara, unwanted population.
Yep, that's good. That's good. Some other arguments he gives?
In the battlefield of Kurukshetra, everyone is Arjuna's family members. That's why he don't want.
Okay, that's the same argument. That's the same argument. There's others. There's 3 others.
He doesn't want to kill his superiors like Bhishmadev and Dronacharya. He doesn't want to be offensive to his.
And particularly, he mentioned why not? Why not? Because what will he incur?
Sin.
Yeah. So he's thinking he's going to be sinful if he fights. He's thinking all the seniors will die, and that will destroy the culture. And what else?
Well, he also says that there's no point. Like we're gonna enjoy.
Okay, yeah, there'll be no enjoyment. There'll be no point in winning a kingdom if there's no one around to show off to. Enjoyment and another reason, the first reason, another reason he gives, which is his first argument.
Is it that maybe he says, I would rather let myself be killed by them rather than kill them?
It's just compassion. It's just this, like Kripaya Para, Prabhupada's explaining in text 27, that, so much bloodshed, why all this killing? So that compassion is one reason to avoid all this killing. And in response to that, in fact, that's the first argument Arjuna gives. So it's text 27 of chapter 1, all this bloodshed. Well, so kripa, out of compassion, when all slain on the battlefield here. And then, so now in the beginning of the second chapter, Krishna, he's responding to that argument, and he's saying that your compassion is misplaced. Right? Because nahanyate hanyamane sharire, right? It's not destroyed. Even when the body is destroyed, you're not destroyed. Jatashahi dhruvam mitru dhruvam dhamnam jashacha. Yeah, the death is certain. So you can't avoid it. So they're going to die anyway, and we're not the body. So don't use that as a reason to stop fighting. So he simultaneously defeats his compassion argument, And he also establishes the Gyan. This principle, as we know, Bhagavad Gita, the Prabhupada quotes so regularly from this section. This is why Bhagavad Gita is so important, because in the very beginning, it distinguishes between spirit and matter. It's called Sankhya. In fact, in Bengali and Sanskrit and Hindi, the second chapter is entitled Sankhya Jog, which means, and because of these verses, it's called Sankhya Yoga, second chapter. Okay, then after that, as Nitai Prabhu mentioned, that he's worried about there won't be no one around to enjoy the kingdom. And so Krishna explains in these verses 31 to 37 that actually, according to Karma Kanda, means the religious duties of a Kshatriya. Karma Kanda is not exactly on the spiritual platform, but it will lead you to the heavenly planets. And if a Kshatriya is a hero on the battlefield, that's his dharma, that's his karma. And if you fulfill that, even if you're not chanting Hare Krishna, but if you just do your duty as a warrior and you're brave on the battlefield, you'll be elevated to the heavenly planets. So that's a type of religiousness, but it's not transcendental. But it's piety. It's what's called karma kanda. So prescribed duties. Most people are on that platform. Dharma nishtha madhe bahut karma nishtha. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Tarup Goswami explains. Dharma chari madhe. Of all those who believe in dharma chari, who follow dharma, who follow righteousness, dharma chari madhe bahut karma nishtha. Most of them are on this platform that they think they should do their duty as a householder, get married, stay married, and maintain the family. That's grihastha dharma. And then if it's Kshatriya, then it'd be hero, and you give charity, and all of these things. It is called punya. And most people are on that platform. Dharma chari madhe bahut karma nishtha. Most of them are on that platform. So on this platform, Krishna is recommending it. It's kind of marginal. It's not exactly the spiritual platform, but one won't be degraded. If one's not on this platform, he's not on human platform, he's going to have sin, he's going to go down, he's going to go to hell, actually. Going to go to lower planets. But at least on this platform, if you're performing your duties according to the Vedas, the Varnashram Dharma, then you won't have sin and you'll be elevated to the higher planets. But of course, later, Krishna explains that gets exhausted. Kshinai Punna, 9th chapter. Kshinai Punna Marchalokam Vishanti. You come back again, but he's not saying that now. This is just an overview. This second chapter, as Prabhupada calls it, overview. So he's not going into detail, he explains everything. He's just basically, Krishna here he's establishing the fundamental issues of spiritual and philosophical discussion. We'll see that these are the fundamental components of philosophy described in this chapter, which the Gita will address in detail. So this is the first platform. There's piety, religiousness. He recommends that to Arjuna. And then he says, go beyond that. And he says, don't do it to go to the heavenly planets. In text 48, he says that Jogashta Kuru Karmani Sangam Chakta Dhananjay. Jogashta Kuru Karmani, you do your duty. Kuru Karmani, you do your prescribed duty as a Kshatriya. Jogashta, in yoga. And how do you do that? Sangam Chaktva. You give up attachment. Sangam Chaktva. You give up attachment to the result. Sangam Chaktva, right? Attachment, Sangam. So Chaktva, you give that up. But Kuru Karmani, you do your duty because it's your duty. Now, that's called Buddhi Yoga, actually. So it's not exactly what we understand in Bhakti where we do it just to please Krishna. It's a little bit of a fine-tuned ideal piety, ideal human life, you could say. Ideal Vedic human life, ideal of Varnashram Dharma, that you're doing your duty and you're not even interested in getting the results. But that's not easy, because Bhakti is much easier. But Krishna is explaining this platform here called Buddhi Yoga. It's also called Karma Yoga, as distinct from Karma Kanda, which was karma is the same. In the Karma Kanda, you're fighting as a hero in order to go to heaven. And in Karma Yoga, you're fighting as a hero because it's your duty. And so you're not desiring to enjoy the results, so there's no reaction. There's no reaction as a yoga star, text 48. Someone like to read translation, text 48?
Yes, Prabhu. Translation: perform your duty equipoised, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga.
Okay, okay. So it's not like devotion. It says different. It's just equanimity. That's what the yoga is, because you're detached. Sangam chakva siddhi asid sama buddhva. Siddhi asid means perfection, or it means success or failure. Siddhi asiddhi sama buddhva. You're not affected by either one. Siddha asid sama buddhva jogashta kurkaman. This is yoga. So it's a type of yoga, a complete detachment from the result and doing your prescribed duty. That's called karma yoga. It's called buddhi yoga. And that's pretty much where we're up to at this point. Pretty much where we're up to. Any questions?
Unknown caller.
Prabhu, what is the relationship with Buddhi yoga in comparison to Bhakti yoga? Are there different levels, or are they just?
Well,
like
I said that,
things?
yeah, because in Buddhi yoga, there it is. Text 48 is Buddhi yoga. Text 48 is Buddhi yoga. And so it doesn't actually mention devotion. It doesn't actually mention, like Krishna says later, he says that tat kudushva madarpanam in 9th chapter. Mat karmani, tat kudushva, whatever you do, mat arpanam, do it for mat arpanam. Here he doesn't say that. Here he says sama yoga. He says sid sama buddhva. Just do it. Just be steady. Be steady in mind, and be detached from the result. That's different from being doing something to please me.
Okay, so that means like Buddhi yoga is like inferior to Bhakti yoga then, right?
That's right. And that's why we're looking here, is that this is like a progressive, I mean, there's a yoga ladder in these first 6 chapters. So yoga ladder. And Buddhi yoga means karma yoga. Buddhi yoga means karma yoga. It means that the intelligence of it is that you carry on with your prescribed duty rather than renouncing it. So it's more intelligent to just carry on with it and give up the result, or give up attachment to the result rather than stopping the work. That's why it's called Buddhi yoga. It's better than Jnana yoga. It's better than like renunciation. This is because it's intelligent, because it's safer, and we'll be discussing that tonight in some of these exercises that we gave you for preparation. Anything else on how we're moving up to where we are right now? Okay, so now because what happens if you do Buddhi yoga, then there's no reactions, because you're not doing it to get a result. So it's like, it's yoga. It's like it's transcendental. It's not exactly on the devotional platform, but you attain mukti. You attain liberation if you do Buddhi yoga, because there's no more karma. You have no more karma, so don't get another body. And that's described in text number 50 and 51. Someone would like to read translation, text number 50 and 51.
Text 50 translation. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reactions even in this life. Therefore, strive for yoga.
Yeah, so actually, if you read the verse, it actually mentions Buddhi or Karma yoga in the verse. Someone like to read the Sanskrit there?
Buddhi yuktu yaha tiha ube sukrita duskrite tasmad yogaya juyaswa yoga karmasu kaushalam.
Yeah, so the opening of it says Buddhi Jukto. Buddhi Jukto. And Prabhupada translates as devotional service, Buddhi Jukto. And now, can you read text number 51?
By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of the birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead.
Yeah, now Prabhupada, he's in general here, he's describing the practice of devotional service in this verse. And specifically in the verse, Krishna is mentioning about this being detached from the result. If you read, someone like to read the Sanskrit, it mentions that, someone like to read the Sanskrit, text 51.
Karmajam buddhi yukta hi palam tvaktav manushyaha janma bandha vimuktiha
Yeah.
padam gachatye anyam. I think.
Okay, so you take a look at the second line there. It says palam tyaktva, manusha, palam tyaktva. You see, it says Krishna saying that by giving up attachment to the result, the pol means a fruit, right? Pol, patram pushpam palam. So pol, fruit. So palam, tyaktva palam, right? Then janda banda vinirmukta. Palam tyaktva, by giving up attachment to the result, janma banda vinirmukta. You get liberation. Get liberation. Because you have no karma. So that's why by practicing karma yoga, as Krishna has recommended up to this point, you end up with no reactions, you end up with it's liberation. So then Arjuna asks this, so what's the symptoms of a liberated person? What's the symptoms of a liberated person? And Krishna answering that is the rest of the chapter. So Arjuna asks this is text number 50. He's asking, Ka Basha, what is his speech? Kim Prabhasheta, how does he speak? Kim Ashita, how does he sit? Brijeta Kim, how does he walk? Right? A liberated person who's pragya, deep spiritual knowledge. So how does he speak? What's his language? How does he sit? How does he walk? And now Krishna answers these questions about how does he speak? How is his language? How does he sit? How does he walk? He answers them in these verses as the chapter ends. Yeah. And that takes us to the end of the chapter. Now you were asked, did you, no, we didn't ask you that one, but I'm asking now. What are the symptoms? Yeah, how does he, the self-realized soul, the liberated soul, the Muni, the liberated soul, how does he regard happiness and distress?
With equal vision?
Yeah, in the next couple of verses. So the first thing he's saying, text 56 and 57. So in the material world, he's not affected by whatever good or evil he may obtain. Now that's interesting. You see, this is a little bit different from a devotee. See, here Krishna is talking about a liberated soul. You could say Krishna is describing a general. It's on the. It's like a gyani. a Gyani. Gyani? He's saying that in text 57, he's neither praises nor despising. He's not affected by good or evil. So he's always just in the steady state of mind. But he doesn't really, but a devotee, how does a devotee consider happiness and distress?
It's just a duality of the material world.
That's how a Gyani, that's how a Gyani actually thinks of it. But how does a devotee consider happiness and distress?
It's the mercy of the Lord.
Mercy Krishna. That's a little different. So actually, a devotee, Prabhupada's explaining here how devotee is actually more advanced. Right? The speech, that we'll go back to that, the speech thing. We'll come back to this. But the speech thing, what do they speak? Those of you gentlemen, you gentlemen, I expect that you spend quite a lot of time with people who are not in Krishna consciousness, and you'd like to share with us your experience of dealing with people in terms of what they speak.
Yes, Prabhu. Actually, I wanted to share something with you all. Yesterday, we were at a family meeting, and they were all like friends and cousins, and the conversation turned about death. All of a sudden, they were talking about their realizations about death. They were talking about it in such a superficial level that it just revealed their ignorance on the subject, and the fact that they didn't want to know what happens after death or anything, or so it was so funny. It was kind of like a contradiction, that they were aware of the subject, but they didn't want to know any deeper.
Isn't that interesting? The devotees take it so so seriously, discuss it regularly. People, they don't even who cares about it? Let's What's your experience of dealing with people and generally and what they speak?
Prabhu, they usually talk about how to have the maximum enjoyment, like go on holidays, and how to accumulate wealth, and basically how to enjoy.
Yeah.
Making big plans.
Yeah. What's others' experience about what people generally talk about?
People sometimes talk about, complain about seemingly trifling or trivial things. And I feel like they're complaining about those things in order to delude themselves that those things are the actual things that they need to concern themselves about, and that there aren't bigger things to concern oneself with.
Yeah.
Oneself.
Yeah, it's hard. It must be when you kind of see people, it's like you have such an opportunity in your human life, and just kind of never can kick them over to start thinking in that way. But as we said, as Dave said, and Nitai said, but basically that what this verse says in that's it, text 57. They talk about all the, they just like go on and on. It's like hankering and lamenting. They complain about, this traffic jam and this and that, or else they just talk about, their plans for, how they've been successful in enjoying and how they plan to further enjoy. And basically that's all their mind kind of fluctuates between. And as Dave said, they consider these things, they just said to them, it's so important. Yeah. Okay, so it's amazing actually when you, I live in Mayapur. I'm fortunate. I live in Mayapur. My service here, I live with devotees pretty much. I do training. We do some outreach program, but not that much. I'm kind of here. It's all specialized training work. I'm always with devotees. I travel and preach in different countries, but I just spent a month in Australia, and met with people who did home programs, and met new people and different things in my family and things like that. And it's amazing, how much devotees talk about Krishna. how much, devotees actually, they spend a lot of time in morning, spend a lot of time in hearing and chanting, in the kirtan, in the class, and then discussing service. And the devotees spend a lot of time talking about Krishna, especially in a place like Mayapur here. It's pretty intense. There's much less obstacles, and all day you can be talking about Krishna and his service and the mission. It makes it very easy for you. And when you speak, you're speaking about Krishna. It's such a blessing to be able to speak about Krishna. Makes it so easy to be Krishna conscious. Prabhupada here, he's reflecting on perhaps someone can read the slide for us.
Accepts all miseries as the mercy of the Lord, thinking himself only worthy of more trouble due to his past misdeeds. And he sees that his miseries, by the grace of the Lord, are minimized to the lowest. Similarly, when he is happy, he gives credit to the Lord, thinking himself unworthy of the happiness.
Yeah, so isn't that wonderful? The devotees, such a devotional, even though the verse is talking about just steadiness of mind, equanimity, Prabhupada, he's just reflecting on how a devotee sees Krishna everywhere. And that's very wonderful to hear Prabhupada's purport. Okay, now that Kimasita. There's an analogy. Kimasita means more like how to restrain the senses. Kimasita. Now these verses we're looking at, there we go, that the embodied soul may be restricted. He's withdrawing the senses. We're looking now at 58, 59. So there's an analogy Krishna gives. What's that?
The turtle.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there it is. There it is. So there it is. The extends the limbs and withdraws. And then in the next verse, Prabhupada gives an analogy. Yeah. Yeah, Prabhupada gives an analogy. And what's the analogy the Prabhupada gives in this regard, regarding the withdrawing the senses or controlling the senses in general? And the next verse in the purport. Okay, maybe let's read the verse. Let's read let's read 59. Someone like to read translation of 59?
The embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, though the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness.
So Prabhupada, he gives an analogy now when he's commenting on this verse. And what is that analogy Prabhupada gives here?
That sometimes a person is restricted from certain type of eatables.
Yeah.
But one who has tasted the beauty of the Supreme Lord Krishna in the course of his advancement, Krishna consciousness no longer has taste for dead material things.
Yeah, that's okay. There's another analogy. Skip that. Another analogy. The senses are like what?
Like venomous serpents.
Yeah, like venomous serpents. If you've seen serpents, I stay here in India, in Mayapur. Floods Haven't had a flood for a long time, but when it floods, the most dangerous thing is the snakes, not people drowning in a flood. It's the snakes. They become the kings. So like cruising around, you see them, the big ones, cruising up and down. And yeah, they can be, they can become angry and attack. So they have to be, you have to charm them, like a charmer. It's like it sometimes seems still on the street in India. They come with the snakes in a basket, and they're able to charm them. And so Prabhupada likens that to what? Charming the senses is what? Charming the snake is like what in terms of dealing with the senses?
Yeah, you have to kind of like entice them, entice the serpents, try to engage them.
Have to engage them. You have to engage them. Yeah, not that you're just without engagement, because that's when they're dangerous. They have to be engaged, and then you're connected. It's called, that's the whole. That's the whole process here. Okay. So in that way, this is the aspect of sense control that's being described here by Parang Drishva, as we heard, that was mentioned already. It's also an analogy in itself. You lose your taste for the dead, pale material things, having a Parang Drishva. Drištva, it's an interesting word. Drištva means vision also. Drishta, higher vision, higher experience. Prabhupada says the higher taste. It's a higher taste. When I joined the movement, this 40 years ago, in the 1980s, we had a book. We used to distribute the book, Higher Taste. That's how most of the preaching was being done, where I was staying in Australia, through the preacher distributing of the vegetarian cookbook of the Higher Taste. Any questions so far on, we looked at, speaking, and we looked at restraining the senses.
Yeah, I guess the proposal here is to engage all the senses, right? Because in certain verses, it also says that even one of the roaming senses deviates from the path, then it can carry away the whole mind, right? So the process here is to engage all the senses, all at the same time, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Totally. Totally. Yeah. That's why we've got enough activities to keep us busy, keep all the different senses busy. So this is the exercise that this is the issue that we're looking at now. That Arjuna has said this in the beginning of the chapter. He said this: it's better to Bhiksham, better to Shreya. It's better than Bhiksham, that I beg. I give up everything, and this fight's no good. It's better I just become a beggar. It's like he's implying there to become a jnani. Jnani is also a bhiksha. They also just sustain off people giving alms. They don't endeavor. They don't a true jnani. They don't endeavor. They'll come, and they're just begging whatever comes. And then Krishna says, okay, but better giving up, okay, but don't give up the activity, give up the result, attachment to the result. And that's what we just looked at in that presentation that we explained the second chapter. That sangam tyaktva. Tyaktva means to give up, tyagi, tyaktva, abandon what? Sangha, the attachment to the result. Sangam tyaktva. Give that up, but kuru karmani, you do your karma. You do your prescribed duty without attachment to the result. Now so Krishna is recommending that in response to Arjuna's argument is that better I give up attachment and then stop work. And Krishna says, I give up attachment to the result, but do the duty. And then even to jump ahead a little bit, in the 5th chapter even says it more clearly. Of the two, giving it up entirely, karma sannyas, means to give up, to abandon your duty. Right? Karma sannyas. It means like become a sannyasi. That I'm Brahman, I'm spiritual, I don't have any, I'm not this body, so I don't have to do the duties of a soldier or a leader. It's just illusion. I'll just become a sannyasi. That's called karma sannyas. That's traditionally how one would take the spiritual life. Karma sannyas. So Krishna is saying here, no, don't do that to become a karma yogi. Not a karma sannyasi, a karma yogi. You carry on with your work and you do it for yoga. In this case, you do it just for your duty, but Krishna ultimately says, do it to please me. So Prabhupada in his purports, he just simply says better to just do work to please Krishna, and you're on the transcendental platform and it's easy. So that's why Prabhupada is talking about bhakti yoga. Okay, we won't do this in groups. We gave you this exercise before the class tonight. So let's have a look now where we can stretch all the way up to text number 9 of chapter 3. And from any section here, from any section that you remember, we can take some opportunity. Different students can take a few minutes and answer this question. Karma yoga, why it's superior to karma sannyas, and give some reference to some of the verses, some of the analogies, some of the examples that are given in the verses herein. So who would like to open up and give a little presentation on what they prepared? Dave? Yeah.
If I recall correctly, that the question was how to curb sense gratification.
Yeah, that's right. it's the same. It's the same. Sorry, it's the same. I mean, it's the same topic because this is the answer is the same.
I mean, how to curb sense gratification according to these verses, and so on. And the overall theme that I got from this, I got refreshed, as I always need to, on a regular basis, is that we don't curb sense gratification by trying to curb sense gratification. That's the main thing. We don't become detached by trying to become detached. At least that's not the most effective, easiest way. And directly try to become detached by various approaches. But the most effective thing is to allow ourselves to become attached to that which is perfect and most beautiful and highest. So that's the overall theme that I got is control the senses by attaching the senses. And then it's a whole question of a whole lifelong journey of discovering what is that thing that's perfect. But that's Krishna, the concept of Krishna. Krishna has so many aspects of study many life. But it's that idea of accepting that we become attached to Krishna and through a spirit. That's the bhakti aspect of the karma. We can proceed with bhakti yoga, karma yoga by trying to do things on our own, attach ourselves to the scriptures, the activities of preparing prasadam, offering, and so on, but disconnected from any human representative in the chain. that doesn't put it to the level of bhakti. So what distinguishes bhakti is that we surrender to a personal emotions. And then following the instructions sincerely, those other attachments and tendencies towards sense gratification fall away naturally. So that's the way, and that's the great, and we're able to almost naturally withdraw the hands and the quarters from it, need be, in order not to make letters. Now, in my particular case, so let me know how much time is left. I wanted to share a little bit about myself. We've never really gone through a whole introduction to this class with each other. Students know how to introduce a little bit of my journey. Going back quite some time. I've just been sitting around and like we had a lot of wonderful devotees. Almost no bad experience ever. But finally I felt like getting to an age almost like obligation. I met Bhagavad Swami, and the message so perfect, in line with everything I believe in.
Dave, you feel overall the summary of the section is that Krishna's recommending you keep the senses engaged and you get that higher taste in Krishna consciousness, and in that way you don't really have to be too concerned about controlling the senses. You just forget about it and engage yourself in Krishna consciousness. Yeah, good. Thank you. Some other like to share with us others some of the examples, some of the analogies, some of the incidents that are mentioned in this section here that reinforces this overall theme that Dave has shared with us, how by engaging the senses in Krishna's service, one is able to control them.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I took few antidotes from text 58 to text 63. I like to just quickly run through them.
Let's go have a look at it.
Yeah, so Srila Prabhupada explains that most people are servant of the senses, acting loosely without restrictions. And one must use his senses only in Krishna consciousness, otherwise there are dangers. The other thing, restricting senses by spiritual process, like Ashtanga Yoga and so on, is recommended for lesser classes of men, less intelligent, who lack knowledge. So one must get a higher taste, like the beauty of Krishna consciousness. To the agitated mind, sorry. Yeah, so when the mind is agitated, even great philosophers and sages have become victim to material sense enjoyments. And unless you don't engage your mind in Krishna consciousness, one cannot seize material engagements. And then Krishna explains, giving talking about the example of King Ambrisha Maharaj, one who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon Krishna, is known as a man of steady intelligence. And Srila Prabhupada explains, unless one is Krishna conscious, it is not possible to control the senses. So the example of Ambrisha Maharaj is that he fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, his hands in cleaning the temple of the Lord, engaging his words in describing the abode of the Lord, his ears in hearing the pastimes of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the form of the Lord, his body in touching the body of the devotee, his nostrils in smelling the flavor of the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, his tongue in tasting the tulsi leaves offered to him, his legs in traveling to the holy places, and his head in offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desires in fulfilling the desires of the Lord. So like that, the senses can be completely controlled by only the strength of devotional service to Krishna. One who is not Krishna conscious is subjected to material desire, even while he's contemplating contemplating on the objects of the senses. And if the senses are not engaged transcendently in loving service to Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in materialism. even the demigods in the heavenly planets are subject to such influence sense objects, and Krishna conscious is the only way out. And development of Krishna consciousness, one knows that everything has its use in the service of the Lord. A devotee knows that everything has a service in the service of the Lord. People without Krishna consciousness try to avoid material objects, desiring liberation from material bondage, but do not attain to the perfectional stage of renunciation. So ultimately, everything must be used in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, we become victim to material consciousness.
Nitai Prasad Prabhu, you've showered us with such nectarian detail on the topic of controlling the senses in Krishna consciousness, with so much reference to statements in Prabhupada's purports. For that, we're indebted.
Well, Prabhuji, I've just, I think I've copied and pasted. So please forgive me. I've just, I've read it and
quite a bit of learning going on in that simple exercise. Others like to share with us some points they've noted in regard the process of controlling the senses in Krishna consciousness as described in these verses and purports.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
The devotee, yes. Yes, Prabhuji. I'll just start with a few points.
Yeah.
The devotee remains equipoised, not overly elated by good fortune or devastated by adversity. And the next point I wrote is like, instead of being dictated by the senses, the devotee engages them in the service of the Lord. By adhering to do's and don'ts prescribed in relief scriptures, one restrains sense enjoyment and advances in Krishna consciousness. The tortoise's ability to retract in its senses symbolizes the devotee's controlled engagement in the Lord's service. Sense control is pivotal for spiritual progress. By dedicating our mind and body to the Lord's service, remaining engaged in our duties and seeking good association, we can gradually master our senses and deepen our Krishna consciousness. Remember, just as the tortoise withdraws its limbs, we too can withdraw our senses from sense objects and find true knowledge in the service of the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna.
Very good, very good. Inspirational. Other points as yet not discussed. Some students who have not shared yet like to share with us some points they collected on the topic of Krishna conscious sense control. Yes, Blake.
You can say that it starts with hearing. When you hear about Krishna, then that can make you attached to Krishna, and then that will lead you to meditation, like thinking about Krishna, reading about Krishna, chanting, and that can help you to be satisfied in the self alone, or satisfied with your relationship with Krishna. And then from there, it's like Dave was saying, you can learn to tolerate your desires for sense gratification by replacing them with devotional service. And eventually dedicate all of your work and free time and everything 100% to Krishna. Is that okay?
Yeah, spoken like a sage, spoken like a true sage. Some other points, Lilavan or Atavi Prabhu like to share with us some other points from this section, Krishna conscious sense control.
Prabhu, can I just make one important point, which I think very important for me as well.
Yeah.
I wanted to share. The very important is one should practice this art of Krishna consciousness under a bona fide spiritual master. Otherwise, the spirit soul will be engaged in material activities. His occupation will be only in illusionary energy. So I missed that point. I just wanted to share.
Oh, Nitai, your mercy is boundless. Now, from Lilavan and from Atavi Prabhu, some points to some final points to share on how you collected some points? Krishna conscious sense control. Yes,
Prabhu,
Leelaban.
I want to apologize because I
Oh,
am not able
Leelaban.
to.
This evening you're looking so
Prabhu,
much like Bhaktivinoda Thakur on his way to the court that we'll let you off.
Prabhu, I'm so sorry. I'm not able to make the presentation because my exam was started from, I think.
Okay. Babu, something to share this evening on this topic?
Yes, yes, Prabhu. Maybe I could add.
Yeah, please do.
Like from your question in the beginning, right? Why is it like sannyas yoga? Why is it karma yoga better than sannyas yoga, right?
Yeah,
So maybe my understanding is that like sannyas yoga is like abandoning the working without attachment for the results, whereas karma yoga means to engage everything in the service of the Lord. And maybe that's what I wanted to add. Like there's the difference between falgu vairagya, which is false renunciation, as opposed to yukta vairagya, which means to engage everything in the service of the Lord. So maybe just like as we are supposed to engage all our senses in the service of the Lord, similarly, whatever assets, whatever talents, whatever everything that we have available to us, we can also engage that in the service of the Lord, and that it's higher than artificial renunciation. It means because ultimately everything belongs to Krishna, so everything could be engaged in Krishna's service.
Good. Yeah. Now we asked you for the homework on this point about Krishna conscious sense control, and everyone's explained full engagement, no room left over, the mind in the senses, even hearing. So that's because that's the you could say theme, as Dave Prabhu mentioned, that this is reoccurring both in what Krishna's saying and what Prabhupada's purporting, how to keep the senses engaged, and to how this topic comes up in the discussion between Krishna and Arjuna is this. Arjuna's recommending karma sannyas and Krishna's recommending karma yoga, and Prabhupada's talking about the benefits of bhakti yoga throughout the whole section. So, well, let's go through. We'll read some of these verses and we'll discuss a few points, some additional points from the section in a little more detail. Some already mentioned by you, but we'll go to it in a little more detail, and some additional points we'll also make. Now let's read. Someone like to read for us 60, 61 to 63. No, 61, 60 to 62. Those three verses.
Are so strong and impetuous, however, that they flexibly carry away life, even of a man of discrimination with endeavoring control. Should I go to the next verse?
Yeah.
One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness on me, is known as a man of steady intelligence.
Okay, but yeah, we'll leave it there. We'll get to come to 62 later. So now these two verses. In 61, there's what's described as a brief mention of bhakti. But Krishna says me, he mentions me there, Madpara, fixes his mind upon me. A brief mention of bhakti. And in the purport, as we heard, I believe it was Nitai, he gave us an elaborate description of this purport of Ambarish Maharaj. And this way he keeps the senses under full control by fixing them all on Krishna in different ways. So 62, 63, someone like to read the translations?
Text 62. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. Text 63. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool.
This is generally described as eight steps to fall down. Is there any question?
Eight steps, huh? Did we count the 8 steps?
Oh, it's maybe 7 or 8 or something around. Something around there. 7, 8. Like the boxer, how many fingers? 5, 4, 7 or 8. By that stage. Of course, the key here is the Jayato. Key here is Jayato. That's really the most powerful one. So that's why we practice Krishna consciousness. It's all about meditation, remembering Krishna and thinking of Krishna, thinking of everything in relation to Krishna.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to 67. Someone like to read translation for 67.
As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence.
Yeah, okay. You're related. I skipped over to mention, I neglected to mention in the verse, the Jayato verse, there's an example given, and an example of different specific persons who are mentioned. Can anyone remember who they are? There's 4 people who are mentioned, actually, of significance.
Lord Shiva, Parvati, Haridas Thakur.
Yeah. And perhaps you could elaborate a little bit. What are the respective incidents?
Well, it says Parvati agitated Lord Shiva, and as a result, Kartikeya was born. Whereas Haridas Thakur was also allured by Maya Devi, but he easily passed the test because he was fully engaged. All his senses were fully engaged in the service of the Lord. Okay,
very good. So how does the example of Haridas Thakur, how does that compare with Shiv Parvati? What's the difference? Why is it that has given us a comparison?
Haridas Thakur, the one who said, just wait a little bit till I finish my round, and I'll be with you. He never ended up finishing it.
Yeah, that's Haridas Thakur. So yeah, the example, he's busy, Haridas Thakur is busy finishing his rounds. He hasn't got time for Maya. And Mahadev, Shiv Parvati, what's the incident there? The incident there, we believe, is that Lord Shiva was agitated due to the ankle bells of Parvati, and there was a daughter produced, wasn't it? So Lord Shiva, because he was in...
He was what due to the ankle bells? Agitated?
Yeah, he was in silent meditation, and so it's better, the point here is better to chant Hare Krishna rather than a silent meditation, because in silent meditation, at any time, your mind could be disturbed. So Haridas Thakur was actively engaged in the senses and the mind. And Lord Shiva was trying to restrain them. And so he wasn't successful, but Haridas Thakur was. Of course, Lord Shiva, what's that?
No, sorry, I was just going to add also the advantages of personal meditation, right? Like the personalism of Vaishnavism as opposed to the personalist meditation.
Yeah, of course, Lord Shiva, this is also a Leela he performs, because he's actually Vaishnavanam Yatashambhu. And so he's there just he's there just to give hope for those that have no other hope. He's there to reclaim the ghosts and the bhutas and those who can't, the unclean. Lord Shiva, Ashutosh, very easily pleased. So he's there to reclaim them. And he's performing his leelas. He's performing his leelas to bring people to Krishna consciousness. When we see Srimad Bhagavatam, study Srimad Bhagavatam, we'll see how Lord Shiva is engaging in Krishna Bhakti. He's engaging in Krishna Bhakti and preaching Krishna consciousness, training others in Krishna consciousness. So in this particular occasion, he's just performing this lila for our benefit. But in general, Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu, he's the greatest of the Vaishnavas, and his mind and senses are engaged in serving Sri Hari. As in Mayapur, particularly Lord Shiva is worshipped in Mayapur as he's doing bhajan of Gauranga. Srila Thakur Bhaktivinoda explains the Lord Shiva in Simantadeep. If you've been in Rajapur, where we have a Jagannath temple, so behind that there's a temple there where Parvati Devi, she's in meditation. She's meditating on Gauranga. Have you seen that temple in Rajapur? It's gone. Not everyone's seen that temple. So there you see Parvati, she's sitting down. This temple was the design for this temple appeared in the heart of His Grace Jananivas Das, Brahmachari, Pujari in Mayapur. He desired that we make the temple of Parvati and Gauranga. Parvati, she's meditating on Gauranga. And why she's meditating on Gauranga? Because in Satyajug, she saw Lord Shiva, he was dancing in ecstasy, he was chanting Gauranga, 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 and dancing in ecstasy. And Parvati was asking, who is this Gauranga? And Mahadev, he began to explain the glories of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how he appears in Kali Yuga and he distributes the love of Godhead indiscriminately. And he's chanting, and Mahadev, he says that Mayarpur Anturabage Janabir Tire Gaudanga Bhajibo Ami Rohira Kutire. He says that Mayapur Anturbhage, deep within Mayapur Anturbhage, in the internal Anturbhage, in the interior area of Mayapur Anturbhage, Janabir Tire, on the banks of Maganga, Gaudanga Bhajibo Ami. I will chant Gaudanga, Rohira Kutire, living in a cottage. So, Mahadev, this is just a lila he's performing. He's not always in that. He's eternally residing in Mayapur here, chanting Gaudanga, Gaudanga, Gaudanga. Just for information. And he's worshipped here by Shrant Shashri Thakur. He installed Mahadev Kshetrapal right behind the Shivlinga, right behind the birthplace of Nimai Chandristan. And the neem tree, just right behind it, is two big Shivlingas. Where Gaudanga is, where Shiv Mahadev is permanently engaged in Gaudanga Bhajan on the banks of Maganga in Mayapur. So that's Shiv, Parvati, and Haridas Thakur. Because Haridas Thakur, what can we say about Haridas Thakur? All through the pastimes of he was this 3 lakhs of nay, he's chanting 300,000. He's chanting 190 rounds. That's like every day. That's before even before Gaushundra appeared. Haridas Thakur was doing that bhajan before Mahaprabhu appeared. He was quite aged. He passed away in Puri. The lila is there, passing of Haridas Thakur. He's in his 70s. And Mahaprabhu's in his late 30s. So he was very aged, Haridas Thakur. And even before Gaushundra had appeared, Haridas Thakur was chanting 192 rounds a day. He was from Bangladesh. He was born in a Muslim family, and thousands of people would gather around him because he was in the total love of Godhead, constantly chanting the holy name and in total prema, ecstasy, tears of love of Godhead, constantly profusely flowing from his eyes. Haridas Thakur. And so he was a great preacher, even before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. And then he joined the pastimes. He came from East Bengal. He came to Navadip and he joined in the pastimes, associating with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, chanting, dancing in the house of Srivas Thakur. And then he was the first, the devotee that Gaushundra anointed as the first preacher. Shunu Nityananda, Shunu Haridas, Shabatra Amaraga Korho Prakash. Shunu, listen, Haridas, listen, Nityananda, Sabatra Amaraga Korho Prakash. In every direction. Amaragai, my instructions, Koraho Prakash, you reveal them. Prati Gore Giye, go to every house, Kora Ebika, and you beg this, Bhaja Krishna, Bolo Krishna, Kora Krishna Shikha. Worship Krishna, chant Krishna's name, follow Krishna's instructions. So Mahaprabhu, he inaugurated the preaching. He ordered Haridas Thakur, the first preacher. He ordered him. So this incident here where Maya and another incident where he was so famous that the local magistrate, he tried to minimize the fame of Haridas Thakur. He hired a prostitute who went 3 evenings. That's not far from here, not far from Maya, on the border of India and Bangladesh, Manipal. We visited many times. You can visit the cave where Haridas Thakur was chanting there, in the place where he delivered that prostitute who came. And he engaged, and eventually she became purified, hearing him chanting. She remained there, shaved her head, remained in that place, and performed the bhajan. And later Maya Devi herself came, but Haridas Thakur has so much taste for the holy name. So much taste for the holy name. He's Lord Brahma, Brahma. He appeared in the house of not even in the society of the Vedic Sanatan Dharma. He appeared outside of that in great humility. Great humility. What's that? Haridas Thakur Arup Shanatan Jagannath Mandire Najan Tinjon. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Kaviraj Goswami, he explains that Haridas Thakur Arup Shanatan, these 3 people, Haridas Thakur, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Haridas Thakur Arup Shanatan Jagannath Mandire Najan Tinjon. They never entered Jagannath temple. Jagannath Mandire Najan Tinjon. They never went inside Jagannath temple. Haridas Thakur, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, out of their great humility. Haridas Thakur wouldn't even go near the temple out of fear that the priests, the servants of Lord Jagannath, would see him, or his shadow would touch them, or he wouldn't even go near the temple. He just remained in a Shida Bakula, and Goshandor, he came every day with the Jagannath Prasad to give to Haridas Thakur. So what a devotee, Haridas Thakur. How he preached, spread the holy name. So much of his preaching is described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now we're on text 67, the boat on the water. The boat on the water. So what are your thoughts on the boat on the water analogy, gentlemen? Would someone like to explain its nature? The boat on the water analogy, how's that related to sense control?
Well, Prabhupada also gave that an example. I think he was asked, because Prabhupada said, well, once you're engaged in Krishna consciousness, you're supposed to be transcendental. But one devotee asked him, well, I feel like I'm tossed away by the 3 modes of material nature. So Prabhupada says, well, it's just as long as you remain on the boat of devotional service, following the 4 regulated principles, chanting 16 rounds, it's like the waves, they're hitting the boat. But you just remain steady.
Yes, that's also a boat example. That's also a boat example. That's more like a ship example. That's also a ship, but this is not exactly that example. It's not exactly what's being presented in text 67.
Should I try, Prabhu?
Yeah.
When our senses are not aligned with our spiritual purpose, they can lead us astray like a gusty wind pushing a boat off course. So let's anchor our senses in devotions and sail towards enlightenment.
Yeah, that's it pretty much. That the boat on the water, at any time the wind can blow it away. At any time, any wind, the sails, the boat on the unanchored. However, if the senses are engaged, then the wind can't blow them away. So that's the analogy there. So then we move on to the 3rd chapter. Let's read a couple of these verses. Text number 4 and 5. Someone like to read those translations?
Text 4. Not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. Text 5. Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment.
Okay, this is the practical reality that you can't just stop work. You can't stop work. So it's better to just divert your energy, divert your tendency to work, and make Krishna the object of your work. And then they're very easy. That's called Buddha Yoga. And Prabhupada comments in the purport, he says, whatever he may be able to do, whatever he may be able to do to advance in the cause is accepted by the Lord. That's the special feature of devotional service, that because the Lord reciprocates with our effort, with your whatever you, the more you try to engage things, the more you try to do, the more you try to act. Prabhupada he calls it devotional service. The more you try to engage in satisfying the Lord, the more the Lord reciprocates, the more the Lord's pleased. Yeah, so text 5. Oh, text 4. Did we read? We read text 4. Not merely by abstaining from work. Yeah, not by abstaining. Prabhupada talks about just taking sannyas, because that's in India. It's still like that. A man, if he can just go to a temple and just like get sannyas. There's types of sannyasis who will initiate a man who comes, he says, I'm done with family life, I'm not going back, and they give him some initiation into sannyas. In India, it's as easy as that to become a sannyasi. Not like in ISKCON, you have to, it's like decades. Any of you applying for sannyas in ISKCON? It's such a rigorous process. Decades of evaluation and the training programs that have to be completed. But in general, in India, the sannyas is a cheap thing. You just get the saffron robes. Some Babaji, some sadhu can give you. You ask some diksha, take some donation, give you the saffron. That's sannyas. So many men, they just take it as a livelihood. Perhaps even most of the sadhus that you see. Just a livelihood. They go to holy places. They can stay in dharamshala, which is a free residence, like a common dormitory. And prasadam is given in many temples. Prasadam is given regularly all day, and you stand in the queue. And in this way, a man can just wander from one holy place to another. Of course, it is purification. Tirtha Brahman Kora. It is purification. So that's there. But compared to just carrying on and engaging in, even remaining in household life and engaging in Krishna consciousness, is far superior. Just by Prabhupada's commenting, just by putting on the saffron cloth, it doesn't actually purify you. Just by stopping your work and putting on the saffron cloth, it doesn't purify you. So all of that inclination and desires and all of that's just still there. And is it just putting on the saffron cloth and stopping work, which can be done, that's almost useless. Now, text 6 and 7 are important. In text 5, again, same point is there. No one can refrain from doing something. Prabhupada is talking about Moni Brata, Moni, they take a vow of silence. And of course, rather than not talking at all, we'll talk about Krishna, as is in the case of, as is in the example of Ambarish Maharaj, which was cited by Nitai, that Savai Mana Krishna Pada Ravinda Vachangshi Vaikunta Guna Anavarna. Nay, Vachangshi, he's speaking Vaikunta Guna. Vaikunta Guna, the qualities of the spiritual world. Vachangshi, he's speaking about Savai Mana Krishna Pada Aravinda, his mind is at the lotus feet of Krishna. Vachangshi Vaikunta Guna Anuvarnane. He's describing the details of the Vaikunta realm with his speaking. So that's better than Moni Brata. Text 6 and 7. Let's read the Sanskrit. Someone like to chant for us? Right, we're going to chant it together. Someone like to lead us?
Karmendriyani samyamya.
Karmendriyani shamyamya.
Ya aste manasa smara. Ya
Ya
aste
aste
manasa
manasa
smaran.
smaran.
Ya aste manasa smaran. Indriyaram vimudatma.
Radha vimudama.
Mityachara sa uchate.
Now this verse, very important. Kamendriyani shamyamya. You kamendriya, the working senses. You know, there's a gyanendriya and a kamendriya. Right? Working senses, the kamendriya, the legs, the anus, the mouth, eyes. Gyanendriya is eyes, ears, nose, taste, touch. Gyanendriya, sense of growing, knowledge of growing senses. Kamendriya, working senses, legs, arms, belly, genital, rectum. They're called kamendriya. So kamendriya is samyamya. You restrain the working senses. Ya aste means but. Right? Aste manasa smaran. You still are meditating on them. Manasa smaran. Kamendriyani samyamya manasa smaran, but you're still desiring. You're still meditating on these things. He's vimudatma, not muta. He's vimud. He's very foolish. The grossest to the fools. Vimudatma, mitta acha, and he's a pretender. Mitta acha. Mitta means false. Acha, behavior. Mitta acha. It's pretender. So that's not good. That doesn't help. Krishna, he's saying here that just trying to be renounced and making a show of renunciation doesn't help. Now there's an analogy in Prabhupada lecturing. He talks about a show bottle spiritualist. This is what meant by this. What this must meant by show bottle. In lecturing on this verse, Prabhupada talks about show bottle spiritualist. Someone like to, it's not in the purport, it's on a lecture in 1966. He's lecturing on this verse. He talks about show bottle. If you're interested, I can give you a compilation of all quotes taken from lectures on the verses that Prabhupada things he doesn't mention in the purports. If you like, we compiled that as a study guide years ago. If anyone's interested, you can read it along with the purports. It's very interesting. Prabhupada says things when he's lecturing on the verses, and then they're very interesting and sometimes not in the purport. So he talks about show bottle. If anyone's interested, I can give you a link to that book. The show bottle. Show bottle spiritualist. Someone like to perhaps venture an explanation how that's related to this topic. A show bottle spiritualist.
That's a new word for me, show bottle.
A new word, yeah. It's the analogy. As Prabhupada is talking about in India, there's the medicine shop, and on the front, on the street, there's a bottle, and it's got red liquid in it, and there's a light shining on that. So that's how traditionally the medicine shops, you could see them, from a distance. So that was called the show bottle. That was called the show bottle. So Prabhupada uses that word quite a bit, show bottle. It's an early English, in British and English, the British in England. Yeah. So show bottle means that Prabhupada says that liquid in the bottle is no good for you. That is just a show bottle. It's just a show bottle. That you take that, you pull that down off the street, you drink that red liquid, it's not gonna cure you. It's just a show bottle. So he talks about this is the idea that just making a show of renunciation, but the mind is dwelling, then that is not going to help. But better is that you engage the senses in pleasing Krishna. Next verse. Kamendriyani kama yogam ashakta savashishite. Better than that is kamendriyani, the working senses. Kamendriyani, the karma, indriya, means the working senses. Karma yogam. You act to please me. You act in the spiritual, you act in devotional service. Ashakta, without attachment to enjoying the result yourself. Savashishite, that is superior. Savashishite, that is special, that is better. So this is a significant theme here, because most people don't understand this when they think of spiritual life. They think it's a matter of stopping everything, but that's not what Krishna teaches in Bhagavad Gita. Even in the beginning chapters, he's teaching how karma yoga is superior to karma sannyas, and these are all the different reasons. It's far superior because in the purport he's explaining that you gradually be purified. If you're karma yoga, if you're, as the verse says, that niyamya arabateya, you follow the rules, you follow the regulations. Niyamya, niyam. In the second line, niyam means you have to follow the rules in household life. Indriyani manasa niyamya arabateya arjuna kamendriyani kama yogam. You use the senses to procreate Krishna conscious children, rather than just trying to restrain oneself and meditating on sex subtly. That won't help you. Just stopping, restraining, forcing oneself in celibacy, but meditating on sex in the mind, that actually, you won't get cured. You'll be stuck, and that's a big problem. But sometimes people, out of the prestige or out of the facility that's given, or they have no other options, they just maintain the external renunciation, and internally they become completely compromised. It's not uncommon. Even in our movement and other organizations where celibacy is expected, it's not an uncommon feature, and this is and this is not recommended by Krishna. Better to regulate the desires and gradually get purified, to engage the senses in a regulated way. Not that they're completely out of control and you're controlled by them, but you control the senses and you engage them for the higher purpose. So this is Krishna's teaching in this section, a very important section of Bhagavad Gita, and very relevant for modern application. So that's pretty much the drift of it this evening. So any questions?
Prabhu, I think no one have any questions.
Yes, Prabhu, maybe I'd like to ask or comment how to gain that higher taste when one is without the association of devotees. Is it easier to gain that higher taste when one is surrounded by devotees, or does one who's not surrounded by devotees has to endeavor even harder to higher taste?
Otabi Prabhu. Yes? Otabi.
Yes, Prabhu, did you hear my comment?
I got
question?
I got it. Well, obviously in a kirtan, devotees, you can get a high taste. You can get a taste. Mahaprabhu, he was in Navadip. He was a scholar. He was Nimai Pandit, and then he took initiation in Gaya. And he came back, and then he became devotee. He took initiation, came back. Parama Adbhut Kotha Maha Ashambhav Nimai Pandit Hoilo Parama Vaishnav. He became a Param Vaishnav, became converted. Constantly tears of love of God flowing from his eyes, overwhelmed, couldn't carry on with normal life anymore. Goshandor, Sankirtan movement had begun. And what did he do? He began the Sankirtan every evening. That was the main activity. It was the Sankirtan in the house of Shivash Thakur, the congregational chanting all night. That's the main sadhana. So yeah, talk about getting the higher taste. Goshandor immediately dived into the Sankirtan Rosh, the taste of the Nam Sankirtan. Golokeda Prema Dhan, Harinam Sankirtan. Narottam Thakur Mahashaya, he's saying Goloke Prem Dan. Goloke Prem Dan. Means the dawn, the treasure of Goloka. Goloka Prem Dawn, love of God. Harinam Shankirtan is available through the congregational chanting. Mahaprabhu was ordered by Ishwar Puri, at the time of initiation, Nache Gao Bhakti Shange Kora Shankirtan. You dance, Nache Gao, you sing Bhakti Shange in association of the devotees. Kora Shankirtan, you do congregational chanting. Is ordered. So it is so, yeah, of course, the holy name and the taste, I don't think any comparison to get higher taste in the kirtan. I mean, that's the Gaudiya, the Gaudiya Abadan contribution, the Arati, the Gauda Arati, the Arati is being offered to the Gaushundur and the kirtan is going on. Jagajana Manaloba Gaudangera Adikshoba Jagajana Manaloba. It's invigorating. The heart feels elated, overwhelmed with the feelings of the Sankirtan. When it's performed like that, the Sankirtan with the proper traditional, the kirtan beats of the mridanga and with the arati is overwhelming. It's overwhelming. I mean, the power of association it's no comparison. You just get swept away in the festival of the Sankirtan. That's Mahaprabhu's movement. In Shantipur, Goshandor had taken sannyas. He was going to Puri. He hadn't decided, but those kirtans in Shantipur, Kirtan, Korite, Prabhu, Shara, Babu Doi, all of the symptoms of love of God, they erupted during the kirtan. Kirtan, Korite, Prabhu, Shara, Babu Doi. Stamba, Kampa, Pulakasru, Gadgara Pralai. He became stunned. Stamba, Kampa, quivering like a leaf in autumn. So, Pulakasru, hair standing on end. Gadgara, choked up, Pralai. Devastation. Isn't the kirtan? The kirtan is overwhelming emotions. Goshandar is experiencing overwhelming emotions in the kirtan. So naturally, you have to experience kirtan and be in kirtan. You can't have that on your own. The Vaishnava Sangha means what? To have the kirtan, come in the temple and have kirtan. Of course, sometimes perhaps you're living in places where you don't get that many devotees together. Of course, they put the Panchatattva picture on the altar. At least there's 5. There's 5 there. There's the Panchatattva, they're already there, kirtan party. Already there, kirtan party. Panchatattva, that's why there's 5. People under, what 5? So already is a kirtan party. It's a Nitya kirtan. Shiva Shangan already is a kirtan, always doing kirtan. There's 5. There's kirtan. And you meditate. I mean, you get a few people when you can somehow either join a kirtan, go to the place, go to some temple, go to a festival. I mean, living in the holy Dham in Mayapur this is so amazing. Every evening you can go to a huge kirtan. Every evening, 6 o'clock, you go to the temple, a huge kirtan, 1,000, 1,500 people every evening. And the kirtaniya expert kirtaniya. It's Mayapur Dham. So how can we underestimate the power of devotional association? So powerful, so powerful. That's why Prabhupada started the movement. So we could contact with each other, connect with each other, perform Shankirtan, take prasadam together in a feast. Take prasadam. What joy! Even the Lord Himself comes and has Sankirtan pastimes and feasting. He feeds the devotee in lines. He's distributing the prasadam and chanting Hari Hari, taking the prasad. I mean, devotional association. Is there a higher nectar? Is there a higher pleasure that can be experienced? The sweet and association with Paramhansa, like swan, like the Vaishnavas, who are so exalted in their nature. Their character is so divine. Just by being with them, you're thinking of God. They're such divine characters and have such advanced association. Association so essential. So, Vatabi Krishna, how can we undermine the value of association? Sadhu Sangha Nam Kirtan Bhagavat Shravan Madhura Ba Sri Madhura Shadaya Shevan Shakal Sharan Shrestha E Pachanga Krishna Prem Janmaya E Pacha Alpashanga. Mahaprabhu is teaching Sanatana Goswami Prabhupada the 5 most powerful items, and beginning with association. Sadhu Sangha Nam Kirtan Bhagavat Shravan Madhura Ba Sri Madhura Shadaya Shevan. Worship of the deity, hearing the Bhagavatam, associating with devotees, chanting. So-called Sharan Shrestha. Of all the practices, these are the best. Epachanga, these 5 items. Krishna Prema Janmaya, Epacha Alpa Shanga, even a little. Epacha Alpa Shanga, even a little association of any of these 5. Krishna Prema Janmaya. can produce awakening of love of God. It's a devotional association. And if we don't have the devotees, then they have to, the holy name, take the japa mala. That's we do japa mala alone. There's a temple, you can go temple and chant japa too. That's both. You go sadhu shanga and the japa. But japa also you can do alone if you like. I do japa alone. You do japa alone. If you live in your apartment, you do japa alone. And so japa is when there are no devotees around, you do japa with private meditation. Sadhyaya, private meditation, personal. Golokera Roti, he's singing. Narottam is singing. Golokera Prem Dhan Harinam Shankirtan. Roti na jan milo kene tai. Roti na jan milo. Why I didn't awaken a taste. Roti na jan milo kene. Why I didn't do the things to awaken a taste for chanting the holy name. So we'll get a taste in the name. Taste in the name, and we'll get a taste in the association. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Let's conclude for the evening. I'm going to share with you a little concluding quote from Srila Prabhupada. Share screen. Perhaps someone would like to read.
Perfection is sure. So these yogis and other methods, they are trying to control the senses by force. I shall go to the Himalayas. I shall not see any more beautiful women. I shall close down my eyes. These are forceful. You cannot control your senses. There are many instances. You don't require to go to Himalaya. You just remain in Los Angeles city and engage your eyes to see Krishna. You are more than a person who has gone to Himalayas. You'll forget all other things. This is our process. You don't require to change your position. You engage in your ears for hearing Bhagavad Gita as it is. You'll forget all nonsense. You engage your eyes to see the beauty of the deity Krishna. You engage your tongue for tasting Krishna Prashadam. You engage your legs to come in to this temple. You engage your hands to work for Krishna. You engage your nose to smell like flowers offered to Krishna. Then where your senses will go? He's captivated all round. The perfection is sure. You don't require to control your senses forcibly. Don't see. Don't do it. Don't do it. No, you have to change the engagement.
Great, thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we'll carry on next week. I think we're up again next week. Carry on. Third chapter, I think cover the third chapter next week. Look forward to that in your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you. Always wonderful, Prabhuji.